Hey ladies and gentlemen, and today we're going to be doing Unit 1, Notes 8. So today we're going to be talking about angle measures. So we're going to be starting to look at angles, which is an extremely important part of geometry. So let's go ahead and take a look. So starting with number 1. So first of all, it has a lot of this written in for you, but I think it's still important to kind of remember it. So a ray. A ray is a part of a line with an endpoint that extends indefinitely in one direction. So it basically means it's like a line, but it's not going to extend indefinitely both ways. It's just going to extend indefinitely one way. So how would we write it? Remember, with a line, we had ways to write it. With a segment, we had ways to write it. With a point, we had ways to write it. So for example, we could have the ray W, Y. And we would say that it's a ray by putting just an arrow going one way on the top. We could have the arrow S, X, and we could have it with just an arrow going across the top. We could have a ray WT and with just the arrow on top, or XY with just the arrow on top. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw some arrows. So we could make, here's that ray ST right here. Okay, we could also make the ray WT right there. So those are both rays. So now what's an angle? An angle is formed by two non-collinear rays' sides that meet at a common point. So they're meeting at the common point, and that common point is called the vertex. You are going to have to know what a vertex is. So let's take a look at what that's going to be. So for the sides, we're going to name the sides by rays. So we name those as CA or CB. Okay, we're going to name the vertex as a point. So we could just say C. And then the angle itself we need to name. And typically when we name an angle with using letters, we have 3 letters. Okay, so if we're going to name this angle, I would call this angle ACB. Now here's how I get that. So we have a ray going this way for this angle, and we have a ray going this way. So I wrote the angle, so this thing right here means angle. The middle letter I want to be that vertex. So I can call this angle ACB. Okay, it has rays CA and CB, and it also has a vertex of C. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of more examples. So an angle divides a plane into 3 distinct parts. Okay, so point C, B, and D lie on the angle. So C, B, and D. They're actually on the angle itself. So that's why we say they lie on the angle. Point A is on the exterior. So notice it's on the complete opposite side of the angle. It's not touching the angle whatsoever. And last but not least, point E lies on the interior of the angle. So E is on the interior. If you were to think of these lines to keep continuing on forever, because they do, notice how that E would be kind of like it was getting eaten by an alligator. That E is inside of the alligator mouth. That's why we call it in the interior. Okay, let's take a look at a couple more problems. So let's take a look at number 1. Name a point on the exterior of DEB. So the first thing I want to do is find that angle. DEB. So then it says to name a point on the exterior. So I want to find a point that's on the outside. Well, I notice that there's 2 points that's on the outside, G and F. So either of those points could be considered points that are on the exterior. Next, let's take a look at the next one. It says name all of the angles that have B as a vertex. So first thing I want to do is I want to find B. Well, here's B right here. So I have an angle here. I'm going to call that angle A, B, G. So that's one of the angles. We can also name angles by just a number. So notice that this angle right here, we could name that with letters and do A, B, D. But then we also have this angle here. Well, that angle doesn't have 3 letters. Well, it does, but we could also name it by the number. I could just call that angle 6. Same thing here. This one has a vertex of B. I could call that GBE, or I could just call that angle 5. So I can also name it by the numbers as well as the 3 letters. So next, it asks us to name the sides of angle 5. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this. And let's take a look at what angle 5 is. So angle 5 is right here. And it wants us to name the sides. So it wants us to name the rays. So first let's look at the ray going this way. Well, the ray going that way is B and G. And I signify that it's a ray by drawing the arrow on top. And then I have the sides B, E, and F. So I could name that ray a number of two ways. I could just name it BE, or I could name it BF. Either way, those are parts of the rays. Taking a look at the next one, number 4, it asks, what's another name for angle 7? So let's go ahead and find angle 7. Angle 7 is right here. So they already named it with a number, so now we can maybe figure out a way to name it with a bunch of letters. So I notice that I have 1, 2, 3 points along that angle. So this angle could also be called angle A, B, D. All right, let's continue on to the back side. So let's take a look at these different types of angles. So the first thing I want you to notice about this one is this little square in the bottom. The little square in the bottom tells you that this is a right angle. Okay, this is something called a right angle, and that's what that square is telling us. All right angles are 90 degrees. Okay, no matter what, they are 90 degrees. Okay, this line right here is known as acute, and we call it acute because it's a cute little angle. Okay, so this angle is called acute, and so it's a little angle. And so then the measure of that angle is going to be less than 90 degrees. Okay, so what makes it acute is if it is less than 90 degrees. This angle is obtuse, and what makes it obtuse is that it's greater than 90 degrees. So that one angle is greater than 90 degrees. Next, let's take a look at this next line that's going straight across. So this angle is just going to be a straight angle or a line. And you know that it's a straight angle because it is 180 degrees. So any angle that is straight will be 180 degrees. All right, next, let's take a look at that next part. So it wants us to classify a couple of these angles. So let's start by tracing them out. So let me get my highlighter here. So SYT, so we have SYT here, and it wants us to classify that as acute, right, or obtuse. Well, to me, that angle looks like it's smaller than 90 degrees. So that's going to make it an acute angle because it's cute. Now let's take a look at S, Y, and X. So that's this angle right here that we're looking at. Okay, well, it's certainly not a straight line, and it's definitely more than 90 degrees. So I would say that this is an obtuse angle. So this right now we're just going based on sight, and that is A-okay. So let's take a look at this one and talking about an angle bisector. An angle bisector is a ray that splits an angle into two other congruent angles. So what is that telling us? Well, this is the statement that that's telling us. It's telling us that this angle right here, angle WXY, is congruent to this angle right here, which is angle Y, X, and Z. Okay, so that's what it means. If we say something bisects an angle, that means it's split into two congruent pieces. So let's take a look at what this would look like. So it's telling us that KN, this ray right here, bisects JKL. So that means that these two pieces are equal. So JKN, this part right here, is going to be 8x minus 3. This part right here is 6x plus 11. So it wants us to find the measure of the entire thing. Well, first, I know that these two angles are equal to each other. So then I know that 8x minus 3 is equal to 6x plus 11. So now we want to go about solving this for x. So I want to take and I want to bring this 6x over to the other side. Well, it's a positive 6x, so to get it over to the other side, I need to subtract 6x. So 8x minus 6x gives us 2x minus 3, and that's going to be equal to 11. The next thing we need to do is we need to get the thing farthest away from the x, so we need to add 3 to both sides. So then we get 2x is equal to 14. Next, we want to divide both sides by 2, and we get that x is equal to 7. Okay, so then we get that x is equal to, oh, this should be 13 and not 3. That's why it wasn't looking right. So this should be 24. My apologies on that one. So this should actually be 12. So now to figure out what this whole thing is equal to, we need to take this plus this, except we need to substitute in for x. So I'm going to take 8, and I need to multiply that times 12, minus 13, and I also need to take 6 multiply that times 12, and add 11. And all of that is going to add up to our total angle. Okay, so are we just looking for JKN? We're just looking for JKN, so ignore that. I'm having a struggle bus, guys, I'm sorry. So JKN is this guy right here. So all we have to do is just this part. So I'm substituting in 12 for x. So then I'm going to get 8 times 12 minus 13, so that's 96 minus 13, and that's going to give me 83 degrees. So JKN is an acute angle, and it's equal to 83 degrees. Let's take a look at this last problem. Given QS bisects PQT, so we need to find the measure of PQT is equal to 6x plus 4. Okay, so let's start by drawing a diagram. So I'm going to draw a diagram. So I have P, Q, and T, and QS is going to bisect it. So this is going to be S. Draw my little arrows on the end. So these two are equal. So PQT, this whole thing, PQT, this whole thing is 6x plus 4. TQS right here is 7x minus 2. Well, if this guy right here is 7x minus 2, then this guy right here is also 7x minus 2. So then, I know this gets to be a lot, 7x minus 2 plus 7x minus 2 has to be equal to 6x plus 4. This angle plus this angle has to be equal to that whole angle. And now we can go and solve this for x. So the first thing I want to do is combine my x's. So 7x plus 7x is 14x. Negative 2 is minus 4. And then that's equal to 6x plus 4. So now we need to go and solve this for x. So I'm going to take my smaller amount of x's, which is right here, and I want to bring them over to the other side because I want my x's on the same side. Well, this is a positive 6x, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to subtract 6x. 14x minus 6x is going to give us 8x. Minus 4 is equal to 4. So then we're going to add 4 to both sides to continue solving. So then I have 8x is equal to 8. Well, 8 is being multiplied by x, so I need to do the opposite. So I'm going to divide by 8, and 8 over 8 is equal to 1. So I get that x is equal to 1. But that's not the only thing the question's asking. It wants us to find the measure of P, Q, T. So it wants us to find the measure of the whole angle. So we need to take this guy right here and plug it in for x up there. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to keep my 6. Then I'm going to multiply 1 in place of my x, and then plus 4. So 6 plus 4 is going to be equal to 10. So the measure of angle, and we can write that in signifies measure. So the measure of angle PQT is going to be equal to 10. And that is our final answer. Go ahead and show me your completed note sheet. Thanks for listening.